The broadcast begins with a jolt, as though the very airwaves are shaking under the weight of what is about to unfold. The moderator barely gets the introduction out before the tension consumes the stage. On one side stands Zohran Mamdani, fiery assemblyman armed with the voices of tenants, workers, and communities that feel abandoned. On the other side, Thomas DiNapoli, the seasoned state comptroller, calm but unflinching, with decades of experience defending institutions and financial order. This is not a polite exchange. It is a collision between raw passion and entrenched authority. The cameras zoom in as Mamdani seizes the moment, his voice rising like a siren through the hall. How long will we pretend that balance sheets matter more than human lives? How long will we measure success by profits while families drown in debt, while neighborhoods are abandoned, while workers struggle to breathe under the weight of corporate greed? Accountability is not about numbers. It is about people, and people are being failed. His words slam into the audience, and a wave of applause breaks out, mixed with gasps from those who feel the sting of his accusation. DiNapoli does not blink. He adjusts his tie, leans into the microphone, and answers with the measured cadence of a man used to pressure. Assemblyman Mamdani, fiery words don't pay bills. Responsibility requires discipline, and discipline requires numbers. Budgets matter. Balance sheets matter. If we lose control of finances, if we abandon stability for slogans, the very people you claim to defend will suffer more. I don't deal in rhetoric. I deal in reality. His voice is steady, firm, like granite against fire. Mamdani snaps back instantly, his voice trembling with urgency but never with fear. Reality is watching your rent double while wages stay frozen. Reality is watching corporations drain billions in subsidies while schools close and hospitals crumble. You say discipline, I say distortion. Whose reality do you serve, Thomas? The bond markets, the rating agencies, or the people who trusted you with their futures? The crowd erupts, the clash unmistakable. DiNapoli raises his voice, sharper now, his calm cracking into steel. And I say to you, without fiscal stability, there are no hospitals, no schools, no programs. Numbers are not the enemy, they are the foundation. Without them, everything collapses. You can shout about greed all you want, but if the money runs out, no speech will save a single person. The room shakes, the audience torn between fire and stone, between the assemblyman's fury and the comptroller's caution. This is not just a debate about money. It is a battle over the very soul of governance. The clash deepens with every word, the studio vibrating like a drum struck by two opposing forces. Zohran Mamdani does not let go, his eyes blazing as though the entire weight of his community rests on this confrontation. His voice comes like a surge, fast yet clear, a torrent of truth aimed straight at the heart of the argument. Thomas, you speak of collapse as though it is a specter waiting outside the door. But collapse is already here for millions of people. Collapse is when families spend half their paycheck just to keep a roof over their heads. Collapse is when children sit in overcrowded classrooms because schools are underfunded, while corporations receive tax breaks. Collapse is when hospitals close in working-class neighborhoods while executives cash in bonuses. Do not tell me collapse is coming. Collapse is now, and it is born from the very discipline you worship. The crowd gasps, applause thunders, and shouts erupt, the atmosphere electric and tense. Thomas DiNapoli remains composed, though his eyes flash with irritation. His reply slower but piercing. Zohran, passion without precision is dangerous. You confuse anecdotes with policy, emotion with governance. Yes, people struggle. I know this. I've seen it. But the solution is not reckless spending or tearing apart financial safeguards that protect us all. Stability matters. If we gamble with the state's finances, it is not corporations who will pay. It is those same families you claim to defend. Without order, there is no justice. His words land heavy, the seasoned cadence of a man who has weathered storms in politics. Mamdani slams back, unrelenting, his voice trembling, not with fear, but with fury. Order without justice is nothing but control. Balance sheets don't cry at night. People do. Bond markets don't go hungry. Children do. You speak as though numbers are neutral, but they are not. Every figure, every chart, every rating reflects a choice. And for too long, those choices have favored Wall Street over Main Street, investors over residents, profit over people. That is not neutrality. That is bias wrapped in bureaucracy. The audience erupts, some on their feet, clapping with raw energy, others shaking their heads, caught in the drama of two worldviews colliding. DiNapoli leans closer to the mic, his tone sharper, abandoning the calm veneer for a flash of fire. And what you propose, Assemblyman, is chaos, populist anger, unchecked demands, budgets blown apart in the name of justice. It sounds noble, but it ends with more suffering. Programs collapse when the money runs dry, pensions vanish, trust evaporates. The people you want to protect will be the first to fall. Responsibility is not the enemy of justice. It is the condition for it. His words pound the stage, but Mamdani is relentless, his voice rising again, thunder in his chest. And what good is responsibility if it means preserving a system that crushes lives? What good is discipline if it is used as a weapon against the very people government is meant to serve? Stability at the expense of dignity is not stability, it is surrender. And I will not surrender the people I represent to the cold arithmetic of austerity. The hall vibrates, the audience torn in half roaring with Mamdani's defiance, half nodding grimly with DiNapoli's warnings. The moderator's voice is drowned out, unable to contain the storm, as the clash barrels forward with unstoppable force. This is no longer debate. It is a trial of two philosophies, justice versus order, humanity versus numbers, and no middle ground in sight. The atmosphere inside the studio is now unbearable. The crowd pulled into the gravity of two forces colliding like planets on a collision course. Zohran Mamdani tightens his grip on the podium, his voice shaking with both fury and compassion, every word echoing with the urgency of a people who feel invisible. Thomas, you talk about pensions, about programs, about promises that require restraint. But what about the promises broken every single day to the people who never get a fair chance? What about the tenants evicted by landlords who use loopholes your office overlooks? What about workers cheated out of wages while companies receive tax abatements? You defend numbers, I defend people. Your stability is their instability. Your balance sheets are their bankruptcy notices. Don't tell me justice must wait until the budget feels comfortable. His words hit like hammer strikes, and the audience reacts with gasps, cheers, even shouts, the energy spinning out of control. Thomas DiNapoli adjusts his glasses, his voice calm but sharper now, each word like a scalpel cutting into Mamdani's fire. Assemblymen, I don't overlook injustice, but I refuse to pretend it can be solved by throwing money at every problem. Governance is not theater, it is discipline. Programs exist because of stability, not in spite of it. You rage about loopholes, but without a strong financial system, there is no capacity to close them. You rage about landlords, but without fiscal health, housing programs collapse under their own weight. Passion doesn't pay the rent. Policy does. His reply cuts through the hall, heavy with authority, and the audience erupts again, divided like a nation at war with itself. Mamdani's eyes narrow, his voice rising like thunder breaking the silence. Policy that ignores humanity is worthless. You claim passion doesn't pay rent, but rent is not being paid under your watch anyway. You hide behind stability while inequality grows like a disease. You talk about responsibility as if it is neutral, but it is not. Responsibility to whom, Thomas? To investors? To credit agencies? To the same corporations profiting from the suffering you claim stability protects against? If responsibility means protecting them while communities are crushed, then it is not responsibility, it is betrayal. The crowd roars, some standing, others jeering. The clash now a living fire. DiNapoli raises his hand, his voice booming in response, more forceful than before. Betrayal is promising people the impossible. Betrayal is stoking anger with words you cannot back up with solutions. You demand justice but offer no roadmap to sustain it. Stability is not betrayal. It is protection. Without it, Chaos wins, and when chaos wins, the poorest are the first to pay. You say you defend the people, but the policies you preach would destroy the very safety nets they rely on. His words slam into the audience, silencing some, enraging others, but no one remains indifferent. Mamdani fires back, relentless, his voice now trembling with emotion but burning with conviction. And what good are safety nets when they are full of holes? What good is protection when it only shields the powerful? Justice is not impossible. It is inconvenient to those who benefit from the status quo. You can dismiss my words as anger, but they are not mine alone. They belong to the people who trusted me to speak for them. The people your spreadsheets write out of existence. The studio feels like it could ignite at any moment. The clash no longer just an argument, but a battle for legitimacy itself. Two visions, irreconcilable, are being fought not with weapons, but with words sharper than steel. The storm inside the studio is at full force now, each word striking like lightning, each rebuttal echoing like thunder. Zohran Mamdani leans forward, his voice unwavering, filled with a sense of urgency that electrifies the crowd. Thomas, the people you claim to protect with your fiscal caution are the same people drowning under the weight of your so-called stability. You speak of safety nets, but these nets are woven so loosely that families fall through them every single day. A worker earning minimum wage cannot survive. A tenant cannot fight an eviction. A patient cannot afford treatment. And yet corporations continue to thrive under the umbrella of policies you defend. Tell me, Thomas, who benefits from your stability? Because it is not the people watching their futures dissolve. His words strike hard, each one laced with fire, and the audience rises with energy, some applauding, some shouting, the studio vibrating with raw emotion. Thomas DiNapoli straightens, his voice louder now, no longer calm but edged with steel. Zohran, you mistake my defensive order for indifference. I know people struggle. I know families are hurting. But the answer is not reckless promises or radical experiments. The answer is steady leadership, responsible policy, and sustainable reform. You ignite the crowd with rhetoric, but rhetoric cannot build schools. Rhetoric cannot pay salaries. Rhetoric cannot guarantee pensions. It is easy to rage. It is harder to govern. His tone pierces the hall, heavy with authority, drawing nods from his supporters. Mamdani's face tightens, his words erupting with the cadence of protest chants turned into argument. And what is governance without justice? What is leadership without humanity? You cannot balance a budget on the backs of the poor and call it sustainability. You cannot ignore inequality and call it responsibility. Leadership that does not challenge corruption is not leadership. It is complicity. And every time you defend the system as it is, you stand not with the people but against them. His voice booms, the crowd chanting his name, the energy now spilling over into chaos. DiNapoli slams his hand on the podium, his voice thundering back. And every time you pretend that passion alone is enough, you set the people up for disappointment. You offer dreams without details, rage without results. Governance is not about making speeches. It is about making choices, and choices require limits. I will not gamble with the lives of millions on your untested vision. Justice cannot exist without stability, and stability requires discipline. The audience is divided, some roaring with approval, others booing, the tension boiling so high the moderators can barely contain it. Mamdani raises his voice above the din, his eyes burning with conviction. And I say stability without justice is not protection, it is oppression. Discipline without compassion is cruelty. The people are not asking for dreams, Thomas. They are asking for dignity. And dignity cannot wait for credit ratings or market conditions. It must be delivered now by leaders who have the courage to stand against entrenched power, not hide behind it. His words hang in the air, sharp as blades, heavy as stone, leaving the crowd stunned, divided, energized. The clash has transcended debate. It is now a war of visions, a reckoning between two forces that refuse to bend. The storm has reached its breaking point. The air inside the studio thick with energy so powerful it feels like it could shatter the walls. Zohran Mamdani stands tall, his fists clenched, his voice booming with unfiltered passion, every word crashing like a wave against the fortress of tradition Thomas DiNapoli embodies. Thomas, history will not remember the balance sheets you defended. It will remember the lives abandoned under their weight. History will not honor the caution that preserved credit ratings while families starved. History will not praise leaders who protected systems instead of people. Justice delayed is justice denied, and justice denied is injustice protected. The time for half measures is over. The people demand dignity, and no spreadsheet can silence that demand. The audience erupts into a frenzy, cheers and chants shaking the studio, some standing with tears in their eyes, others shouting in outrage. Thomas DiNapoli raises his hand, his voice roaring with the authority of decades in office, refusing to be drowned out. And history will not remember speeches that promised the impossible, Zohran. It will remember the leaders who kept society from collapse, who made the hard choices to ensure schools stayed open, pensions remained funded, hospitals kept their doors open. Justice without stability is chaos, and chaos destroys the very people you claim to defend. Governance is not about passion alone. It is about discipline, about protecting tomorrow even when today demands more than we can give. His voice booms, shaking the floor, drawing cheers from his supporters who see him as the voice of order in a storm of rage. But Mamdani surges back, louder, fiercer, as though the voices of thousands march behind him. Tomorrow is meaningless if today destroys lives. Stability without justice is just oppression with nicer language. You speak of protecting society, but society is already fractured, broken by inequality that your discipline has failed to heal. The poor do not eat promises, Thomas. They do not shelter under caution. They need boldness. They need courage. They need leaders willing to fight for them, not protect the very forces that exploit them. His words ring like a verdict, a declaration that sends the hall into chaos. The audience split between thunderous applause and furious dissent. DiNapoli leans forward, his face sharp, his tone cutting like steel. And what you call courage, I call recklessness. What you call boldness, I call danger. The people need solutions that last, not slogans that fade. You ignite fire, but fire consumes everything if it is not controlled. Justice and stability must walk together, or both will fall. The two men stand locked in a battle of vision, their words reverberating through the air like aftershocks of an earthquake. The moderator tries to intervene, but it is useless. The debate has become something larger, something unstoppable. The cameras zoom in on their faces, two titans refusing to yield, their words forever etched into the minds of millions watching. The broadcast ends not with resolution, but with a haunting silence after the storm, a silence filled with questions no one can yet answer. And as the screen fades to black, one question echoes louder than all the rest. Will the future belong to stability, or will it finally belong to justice?